Hi, if we've never met, my name is Gabs. I'm a local lantern artist, and welcome to the first video in a series I'm calling Gabs Lab, where I teach you how to make mini lanterns just like me. Here's the lantern we're gonna be making this month. Isn't it so cute? I'm so excited to share this with you guys. Each episode in this series will have a special guest speaker. This month, I thought it would be cool to shine a spotlight on March, an Edmonton local lantern building project that takes place over the months of February and March, culminating in a parade on the evening of the spring equinox. This is also the event that sparked my interest in lanterns 10 years ago, so it's a little bit important to me. Gabs Lab! Hi, I'm your host Gabs, and with me today I have
Lorin Klask, Artistic Director, Co-founder, and Curator with Quarters Art Society and Collab.
That is a lot of hats. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite projects, previously known as the Glow Spring Equinox Lantern Trade, but now known as March!
Yeah.
This episode's lantern is the spined soldier bug.
And you might be thinking, yuck, that's a stink bug. And they're a pest. And while it does belong to the same family, it is special in that it is one of the very few predatory stink bugs, making it beneficial for your garden. Neat, right? Plus their shape is super conducive to wire bending, making them the perfect first introduction to the skills you need for following along in future lantern templates in this series. So grab your materials and organize your tools. Maybe invite a friend or get someone to help you out if you need a hand. Let's do this. So when you hop onto my website, you're going to see that there's a small template and a large template. It's up to you which one that you do. The small template is really good for having like a little desk pet. The large one, maybe if you want to join our parade or just have a larger art piece in your house. I'm going to use a larger template just so you can see what I'm doing. Let's start by gluing the end of the wire down into the corner of the neck. I want you to use as little hot glue as possible, just enough to keep it in place, but you will be tearing this away from the paper later on. Now, before we get too far along, I want to address something I see a lot in in-person classes. There it is. Everyone, including me, gets tired of waiting for hot glue to set. Whether you're checking to see if it is set or attempting to speed the setting process along, everyone sticks their finger in the glue at some point, and 9 times out of 10, you're actually undoing the work that you've done, or weakening the glue. The first thing that I see a lot of people do is not wait long enough and put their hand in hot glue and ultimately burn themselves. Oh. Don't do that one. The second thing that I see people doing a lot is they dip their finger in and then they pull away really quickly, likely out of apprehension that it's going to be hot. But what that results in is that they pull away half of their glue with them and ultimately weaken the glue, making them have to start again. So if you're like 99% of the population and you really gotta stick your finger in there, don't feel guilty. You're just like the rest of us. But commit. Wait long enough that it's not gonna burn you, and once you've put your hand on it, don't let it go. You're waiting until the temperature cools down between your fingertips, and then when you pull away, you should feel your whole fingerprint like releasing from the glue. You've left your whole fingerprint there. Don't give this to There you have it, a lesson within a lesson. Post-editing here, Gabs, I was just rewatching this and I wanted to clarify that I don't recommend sticking your finger in the glue in any way, shape, or form. But if you have to, if you're like most of the population and you have to do it, you're just gonna instinctually do it. Follow what I just said. That's my last interruption, I swear. Your goal is to trace my lines with wire. As you make your way around the project, feel free to put little dollops of hot glue wherever you're meeting an intersection or a corner. Try to put these hot glue dots on lines that you already see are going to intersect, because we're going to be putting more glue there anyway, so might as well have the extra reinforcement. There's honestly no perfect way to do this. If you feel like your wire isn't sitting correctly, put more hot glue down. And if you feel like it's behaving itself perfectly and you don't need the dot where I've put the dot, don't put the dot. All right, while I continue to make my way around this project, why don't we hear a little bit more about March? Who can get involved with March?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. You can come down to our open play workshops and also take part in the parade. You can volunteer. Yeah, it's for everybody.
I just so happen to be the lead artist this year, which means I can also say it is for everybody, regardless of your skill level. I am there to help. Oh, look at that. We finished. When you get to the end, don't forget to cut an extra tail so that when you take this off of the paper, you can wind it around to reinforce it so it doesn't fall apart. This will make more sense later. Now you're going to move on to the inside line. You're going to continue that strategy of tracing my lines with the wire. Start at the shoulder where you put the glue dot when you made that first bend, and then continue to trace downwards. Your goal in these inside lines is actually to add as few hot glue dots as possible, just so it's really easy for you to pull everything up and start making the 3D form later on. But again, if you really need the hot glue dots, don't feel afraid to add them. You're just gonna have to remove them later on. Continue filling in your little bug. The order in which you do this is actually kind of important, so make sure you're paying attention. When you're starting a new line, start it just outside the body, and when you cut off the line, cut it just outside the body as well. Let's find out some more information about March.
Lorin, you've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm assuming your goal is to continue for another 10 years. Why is March so important, and why do you want to keep pushing forward and keep doing it?
Everyone kind of comes away with it feeling so inspired and feeling so connected to our neighborhood, to each other, to what they've created, seeing the evolution of it every year, growing or changing depending on what's happening in the world around us. It's always that touchstone to come together and get through the dark winter months by building something with light, and then celebrating the end of winter together is just like, it's a very Edmonton thing, I think, as well. Like it works really well.
Our winters are very hard.
Yeah.
Congratulations is in order. You've just finished half the project and you've learned a brand new skill. Yes, good job. We're gonna move on to our next skill, which is wire bending. Ooh la la. This is where things start taking shape. And though it can be a little bit frustrating, don't let it overwhelm you. This can be fun. Start by bending that middle wire up straight to the center of the project. Here's that same line from a different angle. Bring up the next line and center it before gluing it into place as well. One tip with hot glue is to kind of drag the tip of the hot glue along the wire so that the glue encapsulates the whole thing all the way around. Next, you're going to hold on to that center line while kind of bending out the shoulder blade lines. You're basically just following the natural gradient of the back. And of course, anything you do to one side, make sure you do to the other. Continue on to the next line, lining that up to the middle of the body and gluing it in place as well. Now when you get to the pieces that you inevitably had to glue down in the center of the body, you can use the tip of your hot glue gun to melt the hot glue that you put down and release the wires from their place. This method works really well and prevents warping as you're trying to manipulate these wires. Once released, pull them down to the side of the body and glue them in place. Here's that same step from a different angle. Okay, this next section I'm actually really having a hard time explaining to you, but there's that wing looking line and then the back looking line and then like the shoulder line, and you're gonna connect them all together and glue them into place. I'm gonna show you a different angle and see if that helps. Hopefully with all of that we can get there. Follow along the back line and glue the wing into place there as well. Lastly, you're gonna lift the neck section up. And this is the first time you're going to notice that your middle wire isn't going to line up with the neck wire. That's okay, just bend it down and glue it into place. Now it's finally time to release your project from the paper. I like to use an X-Acto knife for this because it prevents warping as you're cutting it. Don't worry about paper that cuts with it, you can always pull it off after. You can also rip your project off, though I find that it kind of messes with the shape overall. Now, if you are a kid, please ask for an adult's help before you cut your project out. Don't just go out and grabbing a knife and doing that part yourself. I've also included a shot of tearing it out just so you can see what that looks like as well. Now, if you remember a few steps ago, I told you to keep a tail when you cut your perimeter line off. I want you to now spin that around the closest wire so that it is extra supported. This can't come apart on you later. Ideally, you're gonna spin all of the exposed wires back onto the wire closest to it. This is by far the strongest way to make this lantern. However, if you have a hand mobility issue, or maybe you're a small child and you don't have that dexterity yet, another technique that you can use is to use hot glue to reinforce the front and the back just to make sure that everything is secured into place, and then you can snip it off from there. And if you have a friend or a parental guardian with you, maybe this is where they can help you. Now I just wanted to show you because some people get concerned, but the glue globs left over or any small pieces of paper around this size, you're not going to see that when you paper it. It kind of all blends together. So don't worry about it. I'm just gonna really quickly show you how I did the back section. It's really the same technique as the front, so I don't think we have to go over it too much. But yeah, just go around the perimeter and then do your inside lines, using as little hot glue as possible. I do put a dollop of hot glue onto every one of these intersecting lines, but I try not to push them down with my finger into the paper because, again, I'm going to have to pull all of this off later, and why add more work for yourself? So let these ones definitely naturally dry. 3D-ifying the backside is way easier than it was the front side. You're just going to take each of these little sections here and lift them straight upwards so that they're at a 90-degree angle. And then here I am just cutting it out. I want to really point out that there's a gigantic chunk of paper there. I wasn't worried about it at the time. And then you just kind of pull it off now that you're done. Perfect. Now again, up to you. You can spin these wires into place or reinforce them with glue and cut them off. I just wanted to show you that I did have a piece fall off. Just glue it back into place. And then I'm just going to go through and actually reinforce the back side of all of these glue points so that that doesn't happen again. Yes, it's time to complete the 3D form. So grab your two pieces together and sandwich them in place. You're going to start at the top of the head, glue that, let it set. Do that exact same thing on the opposite end, the butt. Then go to each shoulder, gluing them into place, again, letting them set. And then you're going to go to the midsections, corners of the neck and the middle of the body. While you've been putting your art piece together, you may have accidentally bumped or manipulated some of the lines in an undesirable way. Don't worry, this is your time to fix that. And it should be fairly easy because everything should be fairly stiff and in place. Lights, it's time to talk about lights. Honestly, one of the most complex topics in this tutorial. There are so many options, and there's so much to teach you about the options. With this being the first tutorial in the series, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the easier option that's available to all of you and is cheap. Fairy lights.
Editing Gabs here again. I say fairy lights with a little bit of a disdain in my voice because I despise them. I despise their existence.
Hi, Editing Gabs within the Editing Gabs. The reason I don't like fairy lights is because I've spent my entire career trying to prevent what's called hot spots. Basically, light that's brighter than other light. I like things that are uniform, and fairy lights don't like to be uniform.
But I think I've come up with a solution that will work for this project, so let's try it.
But if you would like to know more about your options, let me know in the comments below and I can make a long form video explaining some of the other ways that you can light your lanterns. Alright, you have one last major choice to make in your project. What kind of base are you going to use? You can use a picture frame. There's round ones and square ones and all sorts of shapes. There's the more organic option, like wood. I found this on the family farm. And if you're joining our parade, you don't need a base at all. You can just hold it in your hand. And that's where you're gonna find I made a major mistake in this project. I'm not very smart. See, my mind was stuck on the parade option, so I forgot to run the wire through the base. So if you're using a base, run the lights all the way through the base first and then spin it around your stick. One note, when you're wrapping the fairy lights around the stick, don't do it tightly. Do it kind of loose so you're not pulling on the cabling at all. Push your fairy light stick in between the two frames so that it is in the center. Glue it into place at the top and the bottom. Here's what it looks like if you're doing the small lantern. It's a bit of a tighter fit, but you can still finagle it in there. Ah, we're getting so close. It's time to paper our lantern. Neurodivergence, beware. This is not a fun step. In fact, I don't think I've met a single person that likes this step. I don't even like this step. Prepare to be very annoyed with the very first piece of paper you put down. It is by far the hardest piece. It is going to fight you tooth and nail. It doesn't want to be on that lantern. But also, please don't worry, it gets easier from here. I want you to notice how I was kind of stuck to the project there. And when I pulled away to get my fingers unattached, I pulled up and down instead of straight outwards. That's integral. Every time you need to pull yourself away from that project, try to pull sideways or up and down and not straight out. You have two major goals while doing the papering in this project. One is to get the paper as wet as you possibly can. Don't worry about those fairy lights. They have a little bit of a waterproof coating on them. They're going to be okay. Get that paper super duper duper wet. Second, I want you to do at least 2 to 3 layers over top of everything. Now I want to show you a few things that happened while I was doing the large piece. One, the paper fell between the two frames. If and when that happens, you can kind of flip the project over to let the paper drop onto your next piece and then glue it all into place. Next, I wanted to let you know that if your paper sticks to you more than it does the project, you can have a little bowl of water in front of you. Get your fingers wet and without drying them off at all, just continue. There's a lot of water in this glue already, so it's not going to affect the quality of the glue at all, but it will prevent you from sticking to it. Oh my gosh, you guys were on the final details! Get those little leggies cut out, stick some glue on. I like to flip it over so that those black lines that you inevitably can't cut out are on the back side. Stick it on. I've added 2 lines where you should be lining it up with the top of the head. Oh my gosh, you guys, the eyes are so much fun. I like to put them straight on. If you're not comfortable with this, you can always make dolloped eyes on a tabletop or like an extra piece of paper and then put them on afterwards. But if you're putting them straight onto the body, put the dollop on, and then just keep spinning your project so that the eyes don't slowly drift in one direction or the other. They kind of drive around it. Aren't they so cute? Okay, I wanted to look at the big sculpture again because his glue points kind of stuck out from the paper, and it's okay when that happens because now that you're done papering it, you can trim. I kind of cut an extra bit of wire there that shouldn't have been cut, but look, it didn't affect the piece at all. Lastly, if you're looking at your piece and you're all done, it's all dry, and you realize, I missed a spot, that's okay. You can actually put another layer on after it's dried. Okay, it's time to address my really silly mistake, and that's that I was thinking in my head, oh yeah, parade lanterns, la-di-da-di-da, you'll just kind of hold the battery in your hand or stick it in a pocket or whatever you need to do, and I forgot, if you're going to put it on a stand, you have to run the lights first. Run them through your board first, and then twirl them around and put it into your lantern. I'm sorry. Now, if you made the same mistake I did, there's hope. I have a solution for mine. Maybe you'll have a solution for yours. I have this really lovely stick here that also just so happens to have a break in the wood here. So, what I would do through said break, glue this whole thing into place, and voila, a creative solution to it. Very silly problem. Now I really did want you to see what it looks like on an actual picture frame in the flat orientation, so I went ahead and I made one of those while I was editing this. Now going back to our big guy, because I wanted to show you that when you add the legs to the big guy, you're gonna have them the exact same way, but I want you to put some reinforcement glue dots on the actual legs to the body, because he flops around a lot more. There's a lot more loosey-goosey paper there, so you want it to be a little bit more stabilized, especially if you're going to be joining the parade. Oh my gosh, we're done. Congratulations! If you love this project, please let me know. It was a lot of work, but I do have one more in the editing suite ready to go with Alex McPhail for a magpie. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched this video, and thank you to my patrons who made it possible to even make. Your support has not gone unnoticed. Fun fact, the cat head was actually made for the March parades. Oh, there those are. I've been looking for these. If you're interested in more information about March, maybe joining our parades, maybe becoming a volunteer, there's more information at the doobly-doo below. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening. See you next time. Thank you so much for coming in, Lorin, and talking to me.
Thank you, Gabs, for all you do.
Yeah, and thank you for producing this again, year after year after year after year.
How could we not?
How could we not?
I guess the pandemic would.
Pandemic did mess it up.
Tell us how we could not.